Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of That's Bonkers, Bruh, where we talk about the strange and unusual, the interesting, and anything downright bonkers. I'm your host, Mitch.
And I'm Kelsey.
Welcome back to episode 20.
Yeah, it's been a year. We just noticed the other day that we started this in March, beginning of March last year. So
Bonkers.
We're still at it. We're not going away. So we're really trying to ramp it up this year. We're too legit to quit now. And thanks for everyone who's listened over the past year.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But tell your friends, damn it, because we need more listeners. So
we're definitely, like she said, we're trying to ramp it up. So the more you can share, the more it helps us. Comment, post, all that type of stuff.
Yep. Follow us on Instagram. We're going to be posting on Instagram more. So we'll give little sneak peeks of what's coming out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't believe it's been a year.
A year's a long time.
It is. I'm both like excited and kind of like, oh, we've only done this much in a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a lot that goes into these sometimes.
It's two sides. But
yeah.
But anyway,
I'm
excited about this topic. This is a pretty crazy story. I had never heard of it before. It's the case of Bobby Dunbar, who went missing, a little boy who went missing.
Okay.
And had you ever heard of this before?
Can't say I have.
All right. Well, you're going to learn today. But apparently there's quite a few other podcasts have done episodes on it, evidently. I even believe there's a documentary on it on Netflix. So some people might know about it, but this was news to me, and it is pretty crazy.
Hit me with it. I'm excited
I can't
to hear.
imagine having a kid go missing.
Oh my gosh.
There'd be
No,
nothing
that's
worse.
literally a worse nightmare.
Yeah, like I had Rowan go missing once for like 5 minutes in a mall, and I'm traumatized.
Zeke's more traumatized than you are.
Zeke is also traumatized. The older
He's
brother.
Just randomly, he'll be like, Mom, do you remember that one time we lost Roman?
Oh, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. Don't bring it up ever again.
It was seriously like probably 7 years ago?
Yeah, Roman was like a baby. He was just a tyrant, man. Like he would just run away if you looked away for 5 seconds.
Nothing's changed.
So, yeah, I mean, if you're a mom, if you know, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't judge me. Okay, so Bobby Dunbar, first let me just start off by saying this. He was 4 years old when he went missing. He went missing in Louisiana in 1912. They found him 8 months later, but he was not quite the same. Something was off. So let's get into it. Okay, so Bobby Dunbar, he was an American boy whose disappearance at the age of 4 and apparent return were widely reported in newspapers across the United States in 1912 and 1913. After 8 months of nationwide searching, investigators believed that they had found the child in Mississippi in the hands of William Cantwell Walters of Barnesville, North Carolina. Dunbar's parents claimed the boy as their missing son. However, both Walters and a woman named Julia Anderson insisted that the boy with him was Anderson's son named Bruce. Okay, so to recap, because there's a lot of names.
Yeah, there's a lot of names.
Confusing.
I'm lost already.
You gotta pay attention, Mitch.
I was trying to pay attention. He was here, then Mississippi, and then North Carolina, and there's all these names, and so I need another summary here.
Okay, so Bobby goes missing in Louisiana.
Okay,
they're searching for him for 8 months. 8 months go by. They find a boy who meets his description in Mississippi.
Okay,
he is with a man in Mississippi named William Walters.
Okay.
So they, talk to William and they're like, hey, that we think this is the missing boy. They start questioning him and he claims, no, this is not the missing boy, Bobby, who you're talking about. This is a boy who is the son of a woman I know named Julia Anderson. The little boy's name is Bruce.
Okay.
Julia Anderson is the mom of Bruce.
Right.
But Bruce is with this William guy.
Okay.
Okay, so
Following.
The mom, Julia, works for the family of William. And she says that they both claim that the mom gave him permission to take the little boy Bruce on a vacation for a couple days to go visit his family.
Okay.
Which is weird, but this was 1912, so
yeah.
Whatever, we'll let it slide. So they're both like, no, this is Bruce. He's a different kid. Like, we don't know what you're talking about. I didn't kidnap him. This is Bruce. Julia's the mom. Are you with me now?
Gotcha. I'm caught up.
Okay. So, but the Dunbars claim, oh no, this is our son. We're going to claim him as our own. They had money. These other people didn't. Julia was a single mom.
So
she couldn't fight the case.
Yeah.
So they were like, yep, this is our boy. This is Bobby. We're going to raise him now. I cannot decide if they truly believed that this was their son, Bobby, or if they just wanted it to be their son, Bobby.
Ignorance.
Yeah, they wanted it to be him.
That's
so
not the
bad.
right term, but
because it would be so hard to lose a child, to have a child go missing, that I wonder if they were just like, we're going to believe this lie because we want to.
Yeah.
But I will say there's pictures of both boys and they do look extremely similar.
I've got a story. I'll wait, but I've got a story about that too.
Yeah, I know. That's why we are in cahoots and you're doing it on something similar. But look at this picture. We'll post it on our Instagram. Look how similar they look.
Can see it. Kind of the chubby face and it's
really
hard because
similar.
it's just it's a little grainy, but definitely you can see that they're not stark differences.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if the parents were just like, yeah, we're heartbroken. We're going to lie to ourselves, even though we know deep down this isn't our kid and we're going to raise him as Bobby. You know what I mean? Or if they knew. So I don't know, but according to the newspaper at the time, the initial reaction between the boy and Leslie Dunbar, the mom, that's the mom, while one account indicated that the boy immediately shouted mother upon seeing her and the two embraced, another account said only that the boy cried and quoted Leslie Dunbar as saying she was unsure whether he was her son. Other newspaper accounts quote both the Dunbars as initially stating doubts as to the boy's identity. There were similar contradictions in newspaper accounts of the boy's first sighting of the Dunbar's younger son, Alonzo, which would have been Bobby's brother if it was really Bobby. With one newspaper claiming that the boy recognized Alonzo instantly, called him by name and kissed him, with another saying the boy showed no sign of recognizing Alonzo. The next day after bathing the boy, Leslie Dunbar said she positively identified his moles and scars and was then certain that he was her son. The boy returned to Louisiana with the Dunbars to a parade with much fanfare celebrating the, quote, homecoming. Okay, so then the other mom who claims that this boy is actually hers, named Bruce, comes to Louisiana for the trial because they're trying the William guy for kidnapping.
Oh, okay.
And he ends up serving 2 years. But he claims all his life that he's innocent and that his original story is correct, that it is not Bobby, it is Bruce, and he had permission to have him, and blah, 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 blah. So according to newspaper accounts, Julia Anderson was presented with 5 different boys who were of the same approximate age as her son, including the boy who had been claimed by the Dunbars, Bobby. When the boy in question was presented, he reportedly gave no indication that he recognized her. She asked whether he was the boy recovered, but was not given an answer, and finally declared that she was unsure. Upon seeing the boy again the next day, when she was allowed to undress him, she indicated a stronger certainty that the boy was indeed her son Bruce. However, word had already spread about her failure to positively identify him on the first attempt. This, combined with the fact that newspapers questioned her moral character and having had 3 children out of wedlock, led to Anderson's claims being dismissed. So with no money to sustain this long ongoing court battle, Julia Anderson had to return home to North Carolina. But what is going on here?
That's rough.
Why do both mothers why are they both so uncertain about whether this is their kid? You know what I mean? I feel like both of them were like, oh, I think it's him. I'm not sure. Like, why are they so confused? I feel like I would know immediately.
Yeah.
Even if I hadn't seen him in some time, like, I would know immediately that was my kid.
Yeah.
I feel like.
It is a little bit weird for sure.
But I do definitely think that this Julia lady it was stacked against her that she was a single mom.
Oh, yeah.
And had kids from like multiple dads out of wedlock. Like that was like very, very taboo back then.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that just did not fare well for her in this case. And then of course she didn't have the money to fight it. So she just basically had to go back to her life with her tail between her legs and essentially mourn the loss of a son that was still alive but was taken from you.
Yeah, that's rough.
So rough. That would be so horrible.
Do you have like an end to the story?
Oh, yes, there's more.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so, but Julia, she eventually remarried and she had 7 kids.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Damn. I hope she can identify some of those more easily. She evidently talked about Bruce a lot and said that he was kidnapped by the Dunbars. So she continued talking about him over the years and sticks to her story as well. Okay, so Bobby Dunbar, Bobby/Bruce, dies in like the 60s sometime. So he lives out his whole remainder of his life as Bobby Dunbar.
Yeah.
Years later, in 2004, one of his granddaughters, Margaret Dunbar, began her own investigation of the events, pouring through newspaper accounts, interviewing the children of Julia Anderson, and examining the notes and evidence presented by Walter's defense attorney for his kidnapping, trial, and appeal. Although she had initially hoped to prove that her grandfather was, in fact, a Dunbar, her research ultimately led her to doubt her belief. So in 2004, after an Associated Press reporter approached the family about the story, Bob Dunbar Jr. consented to undergoing some DNA tests. The results showed that Dunbar Jr. was not related by blood to his supposed cousin, the son of Alonzo Dunbar, who was the younger brother of Bobby Dunbar, the original Bobby Dunbar, who went missing in 1912. So since the DNA testing was conclusive, the fate of the real Bobby Dunbar still remains unknown. It's assumed that he died.
Yeah.
I mean, he obviously would be dead by now because this was like ages ago.
Yeah, over 100 years ago.
But yeah, years later they find out, oh shit, Julia Anderson was right. Like this was actually her child Bruce, not Bobby Dunbar.
How brutal.
Because there was no DNA testing back then.
Yeah, that's a pretty new concept.
Isn't that wild?
That's rough. That's
so
really
wild.
rough.
It's wild for everyone.
I mean, you got to feel bad for, obviously, Bobby's parents, right? Because they truly did lose it. But then, like, to have your child kidnapped through the legal system.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have money to fight it. And you literally just have to grieve a child knowing that they're alive and just like a couple states over.
Right. I don't know what would be worse. Like actually losing a child or knowing that like they're still alive somewhere and hopefully they're happy. Hopefully they're well taken care of. It'd be so heartbreaking for everyone.
That's rough.
But then how weird to be related to this guy. And then years later, you're like, oh my gosh, like we did this DNA testing that we have available to us now. And turns out like he was kidnapped. Like he's not who we thought this whole time.
Our dad or grandpa or whatever, or I guess it'd be the grandpa, right? Isn't actually a Dunbar. His last name is, what was the last name of? Bruce.
Bruce is, the last name of Bruce? Anderson, Julia Anderson.
Anderson, yeah.
Yeah. So, crazy.
Gnarly.
Yeah, crazy for everyone, for all parties.
Like, he goes missing in 1912, you said, and they didn't figure out the DNA testing until 2004?
Yeah, and he died in the 60s, like in 66 or something.
Wow.
Yeah, but he lived his whole life as Bobby Dunbar. He had 4 kids, was married.
That is a crazy ass story.
I know. Wrap your mind around it.
I'm just like unraveling this in my mind slowly. I'm sure you can see the wheels spinning.
I can see them. So hopefully that all made sense. I know it can be kind of confusing with all the different names Especially if I don't have a visual with it,
Yeah.
I sometimes get confused. So hopefully I made it clear enough that the story makes sense. But
The brief recap was very helpful for me.
okay, good.
Yeah, for sure.
Glad I didn't disappoint. But yeah, that's the case. That's the story of Bobby Dunbar. And we'll never know what happened to the real Bobby Dunbar. They don't know what happened to him.
Yeah, just a little case of doppelganger.
Yep. I mean, he obviously looks really, the two obviously look really similar if like both parents were confused.
Yeah, for sure.
You
Like,
know what I mean?
There's some, what's the word I'm looking for here? Just like, there's obviously some, I can't think of what the word is, just suspicion around the whole thing. That's not the right word either. I don't know what I'm trying to get at.
I don't either. We're tired. It's been a long day.
Evidently.
Get it together.
I know.
So anyway, what do you got? Doppelgangers?
Well, a little bit of doppelganger. I thought it was really interesting because we had kind of touched on it before we started preparing everything. But doppelganger is actually a German word that means double walker or double doer, double goer. Sorry, double goer. And obviously, like I think a lot of people there's two kinds of schools of thought around it. There's the doppelganger that's like, oh, this person looks just like that other person, and then there's the other side that's like, oh, it's definitely like the evil side of you, right? But ultimately, you know, like when you take science into consideration and everything like that, doppelganger really is just someone that has striking resemblance to another person. There's not like necessarily scientific evidence that says this is evil or, you know, whatever else. But what a weird concept to have someone that could look just like you living a life very similar.
Don't they say that everybody has like 7 doppelgangers in the world that look really similar to them? I thought I had heard that statistic
I have no
once.
idea about 7, but what I do know is that the Smithsonian actually released an article. It's a couple years old. I think it's from 2022. And they actually said in this research, well, let me read some of it for you. So now new research suggests that doppelgangers have more in common than meets the eye. People with very similar faces also share some of the same genes and lifestyle traits, according to a paper. So like they've actually done research on it. I'll read a little bit more here, but they have similar DNA.
Interesting.
Even though they're, you know, could be on the other side of the world. They actually share similar DNA.
So when you look at a person and you don't know why, but their face just irritates you.
It's their DNA.
It's their
at
DNA.
Their core. You're like, you're just a shitty person at your core.
So when someone just looks, it's like assholes all look similar. That's so interesting. So next time I want to just smack somebody in the face, it's like, I'm sorry, it's just your DNA, sir.
It's your DNA.
It's just the way that you
face.
look. And you all the assholes look similar. How interesting.
Well, yeah. So the article is kind of long, drawn out, and boring. But in a nutshell, they share sample DNA, and this all kind of came as a result of a photographer that was traveling around the world taking pictures of people side by side that had similar facial features. He was photographer Francois Brunelli. I think it's how you say it. I don't know.
We'll go with it. It sounds right.
It sounded right. This started clear back in 1999, and like I said, he was traveling all around for a campaign called "I'm Not a Lookalike." So researchers asked 32 pairs of Brunelli's models to answer questions about their lifestyle and submit samples of their DNA. Using facial recognition software, the scientists analyzed headshots of the so-called human doubles and computed a score to quantify similarities among their faces. They compared the scores to those of identical twins and found that the software had awarded twin-like scores to exactly half of the doppelganger pairs. To find out whether the similarities ran more than skin deep, the researchers' next study for the participants found that 9 out of the 16 very similar-looking pairs shared common genetic variations known as single nucleotide polymorphism. I don't know. That's a lot of science anyway. Anyways, but in a nutshell, these lookalikes shared similar genes, but not necessarily the same, like, what are they called? Epigenomes, I think is what it's called. Anyways, long story short, it has way more to do with just like looking like someone. And they basically had stated with the internet, it's shedding a lot of light on some of these doppelgangers. So I don't know anything about 7, But when there's like 8 billion people in the world, the odds of having someone look very, very similar to you is quite good.
Yeah. I think about this on a semi-regular basis.
This is your Roman Empire?
This might be my Roman Empire because I get told frequently that I look like other people. And
you do.
I have my whole life. People will say this to me. I don't think I really look like anybody.
I think people want you to look like other people because you're pretty and blonde.
I don't know.
I don't, because I agree.
The jury's out.
There's a lot of people that say, "Oh, you look like so and so," and I don't
All
necessarily see it. Like but I don't know. I don't know what people see.
Yeah, it's like when I was younger, I would get told all the time that I looked like Paris Hilton, and then I've gotten Julia Stiles, I think is her name. Is that the blonde one?
I don't know.
I think so. That was on some dance movie. Anyways, I've gotten her a lot. I got told just like a couple weeks ago in the grocery store, a man told me that I looked like a younger Madonna. What's that other older lady that had pink hair that was like a musician?
Cindy
Lauper.
Yeah.
I've gotten that one quite a bit, and she's like kind of old, so I'm like, what the hell? I don't know how to take that. What else? Pretty much like any other like blonde celebrity in the early 2000s, I would get told I look like them. The day that we got married, I was in a parking lot in Salt Lake City, and a woman came running up to me, and I just stood there like, why is this woman running up to me? Were you there at this point or no?
I don't think so.
You weren't there.
I think
okay.
I heard about it after.
Well, yeah, you did. Okay, so you weren't there. So I was in the parking lot. Like right before we got married, this lady comes running up to me, and she gets like a few feet away, stops, stares at me, and was like, "Oh, I thought you were Julianne Hough," and then just turned around and walked away. And I was like,
she was ready to
okay.
fangirl so hard.
It was the most awkward situation of my life. I was like, no, I certainly do not have abs like Julianne Hough. I really wish that I did. Thank you so much. There's only been one person that I think I've ever looked at and been like, oh yeah, I think I do kind of look like her. And it was a random person that my friend sent me a screenshot of off just like a random like clothing website or something. It was like just a random website she was on where she was like buying something, and she was like, holy shit, this girl looks like you. And she did. She really did. We had like the same bone structure and like the same tiny weird ears. And because I have freakishly small elf ears, and she had blonde. It was weird. So that was the only time where I was like, holy shit, are we related? She had like hooded eyes like me. They were all squinty. We looked so similar. Like, it scared me. It was my doppelganger.
Well, and maybe this is my outreach to the community. Look for my pictures on the Instagram page and see if you can find mine, because I've yet to find
like
anyone. Like, no one even comes remotely close to
nobody
looking like
looks
me.
like you.
I'm just a weird ogre looking elf.
I guess. No, I think I look weird, but then everybody thinks I look like somebody. But even like in high school, all the time, people would be like, oh, do you have a sister? Are you related to so-and-so? And I'm like, no. People would always say, oh, you look so much like this girl I know. Like, so not even celebrities, but just like random people that they know. I think that's so weird.
The only thing I ever got is looking like my brothers.
Yeah, you do look like your brothers.
We're all uniquely different, but we definitely have like that just cream a look.
You look very similar to your brothers. I don't think you look like anybody else in the world.
So if anyone can find my doppelganger,
we'll give you a prize.
Yeah, definitely a shout out of some or something.
So yeah, I think doppelgangers are really interesting. But then the other thing that's interesting too is like the fact, you know, how I was saying I don't think I look like anybody, but they say that like what you look like to yourself in a mirror is not what other people view you as.
I can see that.
Have you heard that?
I haven't heard that. I did see something recently that it was like a psychologist talking in like a TED Talk or something like that, that had said something to the effect of like, we weren't ever supposed to like see our faces, because when you look at like human evolution, the mirror is a new concept. So the best case scenario, you might see a reflection in a river, which was going to be distorted and stuff like that. But like
I have heard that.
We weren't ever really supposed to see ourselves.
Oh, I would hate that. You would never know if you were ugly or not.
Guess so.
But yeah, but then like with the mirror thing where they're like, because there's like a filter on TikTok where you like put this like mirror filter on where it looks like what other people see you as, and evidently like to yourself, it looks really weird and people don't like it. So then you're like, oh my gosh, am I ugly and I don't even know? I have no idea. I'm curious
now.
I know, I'm scared.
They're probably just like, yeah. You thought you were anything above a 3? Good luck with that one, guy.
Maybe ignorance is bliss. I don't know.
Sounds that way.
Interesting, though.
Yeah. I do have one other thing. Are you done?
Technically, yeah.
Okay. I have one other thing that I wanted to share because it all has to do with doppelgangers, but this is a case of mistaken identity.
Oh, sorry. I'm just rambling on. I didn't know you had a whole ass other segment.
No, this, I'll just read this story. This is from ABC News. It goes back to 2018. So a man who spent 17 years in prison for crimes committed by a lookalike has been awarded $1.1 million settlement by the state of Kansas. Kansas Attorney General announced Wednesday that he had agreed to a resolution that Richard Jones, who was imprisoned in 2000 for an aggravated robbery he did not commit. Jones was convicted of trying to steal a purse in the parking lot of a Walmart in Kansas in 1999. There was no physical evidence, DNA, or fingerprints that linked him to the crime. He had an alibi. He was at his girlfriend's home in Kansas City. But two eyewitnesses misidentified him, telling police that either a light-skinned Hispanic or African-American man committed the crime and picked him out of 6 mugshots. He was released last year, which I think was 2017, after the Midwest Innocent Project and the University of Kansas School of Law helped uncover the wrongful conviction. A judge ordered him released after witnesses, including the robbery victim, could not tell him and another inmate in the system, Ricky Amos, apart. So this all actually came about.
Oh, wow.
He'd been in prison already for years, right? 15 plus years. And then some other inmates were like, bro, you look just like Ricky. And he's like, who's this Ricky character? And obviously the whole time he was just like, I'm innocent. This wasn't me. He had an alibi that there was like a birthday party at his house and he watched movies at his girlfriend's and he was cleaning up, but the alibi wasn't strong enough because these eyewitnesses convicted him. They were close to the same age, similar skin color, same facial hair, and both had cornrows. Amos has denied any involvement in the crime and will not be prosecuted since the statute of limitations has officially expired. But for Richard, he was awarded, like I said, the $1.1 million and basically got an I'm sorry from the original prosecutor turned criminal defense attorney while he was incarcerated. And basically they're hoping that this, well, first off, they want to get away from eyewitness accounts because...
Yeah, they need to. People can't trust their own brains.
Clearly, right? Couldn't figure out their own kids.
Right, exactly.
And then they've got him counseling, and he's like, I think, trying to figure out how to do it. But he's like, he spent 17 years in prison. At that point, he'd had, I think, a 19 and a 24-year-old daughter and was a grandparent. But he just lost a chunk of nearly 20 years of his life in prison for wrongful conviction. It didn't help that he actually did have a criminal record as well.
Oh, yeah.
Both Ricky and Richard had criminal records, but Richard actually had an alibi, wasn't involved, but definitely served the time.
Imagine how frustrating that would be when you're like, I didn't do this. And then you go to prison and everybody in the prison is like, you look like that other dude. And you're like, I know, I shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And they're all like agreeing with you. Like that would be so wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it literally took this like doppelganger philosophy for Richard to get out, even though he only got out 2 years before he would have anyways.
Oh my gosh.
He spent 17 of his 19 years in prison.
Wow.
For a crime he did not commit.
Well.
Brutal.
Better to get out 2 years early than not at all.
I guess there's that.
Better than a kick in the ass, as I always say.
It definitely wasn't like a life sentence or anything like that, but just how shitty. 17 years.
That really sucks.
That's brutal. Ow. I can't even imagine.
I can't either. That's crazy.
Anyways, I feel like I'm babbling at this point.
Well, that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Great couple of topics, I feel like.
Yeah. I have a couple of just random weird things
Quick
to tell
facts.
you. Quick
Boom.
facts.
Let's go.
If you want. They don't have anything to do with this topic, but it's just been on my mind and I've been wanting to tell you about it, but they are bonkers in nature, so I feel like I should save it for the podcast.
Hit me with them.
Okay, so I read a thing the other day. This couple was on an airplane. It was a 4-hour flight. Somebody died while on the flight. And they couldn't make an emergency landing because there was like nowhere to land. It was like over Australia or something.
Okay.
Or by Australia. I don't know. Anyway, they couldn't land. This person dies. They got 4 hours left on this flight. They just sit the dead body next to this couple on the plane. And they have to sit next to this dead body for 4 hours until they land.
Wow.
Could you imagine?
No.
I would have a panic attack on the plane.
I'd say absolutely not. Why don't you hook him up to like the flight attendant's seat, and the flight attendant can sit next to me as we're landing.
Put him in the jump seat.
Absolutely
Hell,
not.
put him in the cockpit. I can't believe that they didn't throw the biggest shit fit. I don't know. They didn't throw a big enough fit.
Evidently not.
There's no way. They were just like, can you scoot over? Because there was like a lady and then empty and then a person sitting again. And they're like, can you scoot over? And she's like, oh, yeah. And then they just sit the dead body there.
Brutal.
Could you imagine?
I can't.
I was like, holy shit.
What airline is this?
So, I mean, the plane might drop out of the sky or you might have to sit next to a dead body. And then I also saw another thing today where a lady had a baby on a flight in the air on a plane.
I feel like, that it's crazy. It's bonkers. Don't get me wrong. But I feel like that probably has to happen more than people care to admit.
Well, I don't know, but I just read about it happening recently, so it was top of the mind. How terrifying. And then where do you say, like on your birth certificate, where you were born? Where were you born?
Was it your city of departure or city of arrival?
Or is it the city you were flying above?
What if you were just somewhere over the Atlantic?
Right. What would you put? Where do you have citizenship?
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. They just have to they don't put a city or state. They just put your coordinates.
I don't know. They're your coordinates.
At 30,000 feet, he was born.
They're just born over the Atlantic. Trump's going to try to deport this baby now because it wasn't technically born on ground in the U.S.
Oh, gosh. You had to.
He might. It is Gulf of America now, so.
Well, all of it's America anyways, right?
I don't know, but I'm just saying.
North and South. Central.
The baby might get deported. I don't know.
I don't know. On that note,
the other weird thing that I read about the other day is that they found a human egg farm.
I'm sorry, what?
A human egg farm.
Do elaborate. I don't know how this is making sense.
Okay, so it's like a house of horrors. So they got all these women from some Asian country. I want to say it was maybe the Philippines or something. Mm-hmm. And they were like, oh, we have this job. They were recruiting them for a job. They didn't know what it was.
Okay.
But then once they got there, they were not allowed to leave. And they were making them do IVF essentially. And they were harvesting their eggs.
Okay.
For months. For 6 months, actually it was, that they were there.
Okay.
I can't remember where it was at, but they were stuck there being forced to do these injections and everything. Then they would harvest their eggs how often that they could.
Wow.
How horrific is that?
It's a lot.
I can't imagine.
I couldn't, I had no idea where we were going with that. And when human egg farm, my mind went to the Matrix, where it's just
it's hard to wrap your mind around. Yeah. And then I guess, I don't know what they were doing with them, selling them on the black market.
Yeah. Freezing them and then.
Yeah. Because you know how people freeze their eggs all the time. That's a thing.
Yeah.
They were just taking these women's eggs against their will.
Wow.
Crazy. And I can't imagine doing all these shots and everything. Terrible.
That's rough.
It's rough on a body.
Definitely not what they signed up for.
No.
On that note.
Yeah, so on that note, congratulations that you don't have a uterus.
You are a spitfire tonight.
I always am.
Okay, so.
But that's it. That's all I've got.
Go check out the Doppelgängers. See if you can find your own. Send us a message if you do. Otherwise, subscribe to our YouTube.
Why are you saying it like you're so confused?
I don't know. We do have the YouTube out there. We're going to start putting out some YouTube shorts occasionally with clips and stuff like that. And
We'll
obviously, follow along with our little journey on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Rate, review, tell your friends.
Help us grow.
Yep.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.